Okay.
This is an yes. Oh, you mean I always get lost. That's why I know you got tab. Go back to one, two, jump to them.
Oh, okay.
You show it here, your meeting.
Yeah.
You click on that, and you throw a these tab. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh,
I didn't know that. So here, I thought there was.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, all
There,
right.
crap, there will take you back.
I know. I've never seen that before.
Yeah,
I can look to just
Showing.
somebody reprogram. Being 7:02, we'll open the October 5th, 2022 regular meeting of the Martinville Planning and Zoning. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance.
United States of America. Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item is appointment of officers. I'll just read this. The Planning and Zoning Commission shall meet once each month and at such other times as the chairman or the majority of members of the commission may direct. The commission shall appoint its own chairman and vice chairman and shall adopt rules for the conduct of meetings and such other activities as may be appropriate. No person shall serve as a chair for more than 2 successive one-year terms, beginning with the appointment of the chair on October 2020. So we now need to reappoint a chair and a vice chair.
I nominate Gloria McDonald as chair.
And I second.
Can you speak in your microphone, please? I nominate Gloria McDonald as chair.
And I second.
Chair. All in favor? Vice chair. Vice chair.
Now you have to get nominations.
A nomination for vice chair. I can do it. I
Okay.
You can
be
do
the
it,
vice
okay.
chair.
I nominate Ralph Arment as vice chair.
Second.
All in favor? Okay,
Very good.
you're taking over.
How long has it been, Ralph? Since you, how long? have you
30
carried?
some years,
How many?
30 something.
Yeah.
Not for chair.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
38 years.
Where's the cake? Okay. Bear with me just a moment, please. Thank you. I'll do the best. Oops. I'll do the best I can to follow Ralph. Thanks. We have participation of the audience for anyone who is not speaking on an agenda item. So if you are one of these who is not speaking on, I'm guessing, agenda item number I, then would you please come forward now? Nobody. All right, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes. Did you? I did
Of course you did.
a couple things. Who said that?
Go for it.
Go ahead. Oh, on item E number 1,
in the third paragraph, it refers to a town planner that had no comments, and we did not have a town planner at that meeting. So that needs to be corrected.
That was in, Chair, that was in the memo. I had spoken to the planners. The planner was not there, but they had not given any comments back.
Oh,
The
that's
engineer
what-
was there, yes, but that
Okay.
was the,
when I read that, it sounded like they weren't there, but they didn't say anything.
right, understand. We can actually clarify that it was written statements to the town administrator.
Thank you. And there was one other thing. My computer went haywire on me and I couldn't print the second page, so I know there was some little bitty thing on there, but it wasn't important and I can't find it. So do I have, with that correction, do I have a motion to accept as corrected?
The motion to accept the minutes with the correction.
I second it.
All in favor? Okay, regular agenda items, conditional use permit and site plan for Whataburger. Public hearing to hear public comment and consider recommendations to the town council regarding an ordinance amending the town of Bartonville Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Article 14.02, Exhibit A. Ordinance 361-05 zoning ordinance by amending Chapter 13, General Commercial District GC. Article 13.2 uses permitted by granting a conditional use permit and for approval of a site plan to allow for the operation of a drive-through use located on 1.9589 acre site that is part of Lot 1, Block 1, Phase 2 of the Lantana Town Center. The site is generally located on the northern side of FM 407 Justin Road. The property will be considered for the conditional use permit is zoned general commercial district with drive-through as a permitted use by conditional use permit only. You're flipping that correctly.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
I'd like the applicant to make the presentation first and I'll fill in anything that they do not address. Matt, if you'll come up, please.
Is this a hearing? Come on, David. Look, here's what it says. This is it. Where is it? The public hearing. I know. All right, this is a public hearing, so I will open the, What?
Where's the script?
hang on.
You don't have to open it until after. I will go ahead and do the applicant.
Okay,
I'll get the notes for you.
thank you. Applicant, would you please begin?
Good evening. My name is Matthew Maley. I'm with Pape Dawson Engineers. I'm the applicant on this case. I'm a civil consultant for Whataburger. The site, I'll keep my intro short and hopefully address some concerns and then listen to any others that there may be. The site's at Blanco Drive and FM 407, and we're submitting the conditional use permit because of the drive-through use. It's a Whataburger, and through the application process and working with Mr. Chambers, we've heard a couple concerns. I won't say all of them, but one about the menu board and noise. So we've done our best effort on what we can control to move those menu boards so that they project towards public right of way as opposed to the residences. And then we've also put in a landscape shrub row. And then through grading, there's some elevation difference that hopefully mitigates any sound that those menu boards put off. The other item of concern that we were made aware of is traffic and the flow that it might go down Blanco Drive into the residence area. So we do have 2 access points on Blanco, but in coordinating with the overall developer, they don't have a lease signed up adjacent to us, but they do have the driveway permit. So flipping exhibits, we will see. So I'll point to it here. This is permit ready, which means when they go to build, Whataburger will install that and then reimburse the developer for that installation. So that'll give 2 points of access to FM 407 so that traffic doesn't go along Blanco.
And could you reverse where you're standing so that we can see also?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
So these 2 points, we'd have the access to Blanco, but we'd also have an additional access point to FM 407. So then as you get out of the drive-through, you can go here and get onto FM 407 or take the left and then a right in, right out. So that's the general presentation of our site and why we're here tonight. So I'm happy to address any concerns I can as a consultant and go from there.
Chair, I did speak with NewQuest. They're the commercial developers of the entire Lantana commercial district. And that is permit in hand. They have the TxDOT permit for that access point. Again, it is required to be built with the Whataburger. Whataburger requires that access point off of 407. They want it as well. So even though it shows a fast food restaurant just adjacent, that's actually a dirt field right now. So again, there may be something there in the future, but that access point will be built with this Whataburger if it is permitted and constructed. The other items that of interest, parking count is provided is 50. Our ordinance requires 38. So again, they've exceeded that on their parking requirements. The drive-through begins as 2 lanes and continues as 2 lanes. So despite a minimum of 5 stacking spaces required by ordinance, they have 22 stacking spaces. And again, the proposed menu boards were slightly relocated to the northern edge of the property to avoid, again, projection of noise into the neighborhood behind. So those are the comments I would have as staff, but we'll try and answer any questions you may have as well.
Questions?
Which was back up onto Blanco from the drive-through. Would you show us the traffic flow through the drive-through,
Yes, sir.
the direction?
So typically you'll come into the site and then the drive-through starts here. And so by the time you're in, you're either coming all the way to this point and then turning into the drive-through, or you'll be coming from this direction. And then, so you'll have 5 cars up into the menu board where you place your order. And then there's an additional 5 to 7 into the actual entry. So if they back up into the right of way, then it's going to be a service issue that you have a significant car stack. So I don't foresee that happening, but that's the general flow.
Say again, they're coming in and stacking on our right side. Is that right? Coming in and then going
Correct.
around behind the building. Is that correct?
Yeah, so this is the
Okay.
building front.
Yeah.
And then the back, and then they will be stacking between the back of the building and this would be the golf course up here. So, and then there's landscaping, a drive access, and this is where the stack happens.
Exiting possibly on Blanco there.
Right here. This would be the exit point from the drive-through.
Yeah.
Generally, people will either take the left or the right and exit onto 407.
So on your property from Blanco on the top, all the way around to where you get to the window, how many cars can be stacked there?
So there's 5 from here to here, which this is the menu board, where the speaker box is, and then you have 5 additional. So there's 10 here, and then on this row there, I think there's 12. So,
Larry, when you speak, would you pull that mic a little closer to you because you're projecting and I don't know if they can hear in the back. Thanks.
So which direction is the flow of traffic in the drive-through?
Here we go left and then down.
Do you by chance have a laser pointer? Does anybody have one?
I do not.
If you have one, it might be, if you could project all the people over here not seeing, if
Okay.
you could project up on that screen and show us what you just showed us there.
Absolutely.
It worked? All right.
And then I guess if we have a mouse cursor, that might work. Top button?
The top is the laser pointer.
Yeah,
Oh.
This one? It just did on that screen when I tested it. Thank you.
It's white, it's not red.
so if we can work with the mouse cursor, I think we'll try. So cursor here.
Okay.
Saying, this is the stack lane. What is the flow of traffic as it comes in? If
So
you get
traffic-
22 cars, where does that come from?
So traffic is going to go. I might grab a mouse.
Here. Use this.
If. All right, so the cars start, this is where you enter the drive-through.
Okay.
Can y'all see?
Yes.
And then you go to the left. You place your order. And then you go down. Plan south. And then you exit the site here.
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's say I don't want to go through your drive-through and I want to go sit down in your restaurant.
Mhm.
And I park over, I enter off 407, I park in your parking spots
Mhm.
and I come out with those cars. Maybe I can't go out the way I came. How do you get, is there an opening that I see? Are there two openings onto Blanco?
Yes, ma'am. So there's an opening here on the pardon, we'll say. Okay, so there's an opening here. And then there's one here closer to FM 407, but exiting onto Blanco. And then there will also be a point of access here, which goes, so Dutch Bros is down here for reference. There will be a drive installed that goes and exits to 407. So you'll have three options.
So because of your double stack, you can't actually, if you're not in the drive-through double stack, you cannot come down and exit that first Blanco exit because there's no room for another car.
So there's a drive aisle up here. This is a fire lane.
Okay,
And then there's the drive-through lane. And then the building and the parking spaces where any dine-in customers would be. So there is the option if things are backed up here and you're not able to exit this drive, you can go down the page to this entry point. Or if this light has back stacking here, then you can also go to the right in, right out. That will be built.
part I didn't understand, sorry.
It's okay.
Is there room for a vehicle that's not in line to go between, I'm getting up. What I'm trying to get at is with this double stack, there's no spot for a car to go that way, or is there? If I wanted to come here and come out here, could I?
So this is a bypass lane. So if you happen to get your order for some reason early, there's a way to bypass the drive-through, but as a dine-in customer, you would, if you're trying to exit up here, you would go around the drive-through. But you also have the option to get closer to the intersection on 407 and exit here.
How? I'm
So-
parked right here,
And you, so
and
you,
I went into I got my food and I went back here. Now what?
so you would either come down here and take a left, or you can go out this way and take a left.
So you never have to do that.
You could go straight, however, so these roads parallel, y'all live here, but the roads parallel each other and depending on where the person dining in lives, the reasoning for taking Blanco, I mean, from a common sense standpoint, which, I mean, in today's world, I don't want to speak to all of that. I wouldn't take Blanco, but you could go down Blanco, but everyone would go 407. Agreed. So I don't want to. Right.
Excuse me. You're out of order. Go ahead.
If there's any further questions,
Any questions? Okay. I will be taking,
In your experience, what's the maximum number of people that normally come through or drive through at any one time?
so I'm the civil consultant, so I don't have the concrete answer. I just have the customer experience. So I could give a number, but I don't. It'd be based on attending a Whataburger or dining through the drive-through. But typically when we design them, they want to see the ability to have 10 cars in line A, what they call lane A and lane B. So here we have 10 and 12. So they feel that that's a good working number.
all right. I think that does it for you for the moment. We may call you back up.
Thank you.
Thad?
I think Matt covered it well. Again, the understanding is that 407 is the primary. The people who would drive onto Blanco and go into the subdivision would be residents of Lantana. Again, when you've got 50-mile-an-hour speed limit on 407 and a 25 into the neighborhood, unless you live in there, that's, again, talking to the same concept as Matt, but I've dealt with a lot of drive-throughs. It simply doesn't make any sense. There will be a percentage of people who will go that way, but it'll be a very small percentage. The rest of those people who do not live in Lantana will go out onto 407. Now, they will access that through Blanco. We don't control that. We just control the site plan. Again, most of that control was given up with the 388 agreement long ago to Lantana. Lantana controls those access points. Again, the fact that the site plan did not have to show that secondary access off of 407 was important, because I can understand why people would be upset if that was all the access on Blanco, but 407 is expected to be the primary. Whether it's off of that small piece of Blanco or off of through the shopping center. Again, shopping centers often have those not necessarily right to the business, but they split that so that they can share those access points, because TxDOT controls those access points closely. And that's all I have.
How far from, I'm assuming if TxDOT has AOK'd the 407, that it's far enough away from Blanco that they don't have a problem with that?
389 feet. We actually marked it on there. It's on the bottom. So it's 389 feet from that right in, right out off of 407 to Blanco.
Thank you. Any other questions for Thad? All right, at this time, we'll open the public hearing at 7:24. We will take those in favor, and at this point, there's no one. We have had some letters, but not anyone here who wants to speak in favor, so we will start with or continue with those in opposition. The first person, when you are called, please be sure that you state your name and your address. The first person is Greg Neighbor, sorry.
Chicken scratches and all that good. So I'd like to pass these out if I may.
Please, your name and address first.
I'm sorry.
Your name and address for the
Oh.
record.
Gregory Charles Newber, address 410 Jackson Circle, Lantana, Texas, 76226.
Thank you.
Can I pass these?
Yes.
Take one and pass it on. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm hoping that we can get some traction, and I know the group is. We've been here since 2005 in the same residence, before Blanco was opened up through to, yes,
Just stop 1 second. Don't forget where you were, or you can even start over. It didn't
Okay.
count what you already said.
okay.
Would you please set the timer for 2 minutes each?
2 minutes each.
Are we ready? Look, tell me when to go.
Can you start it over?
I'll have to pause it. We can't reset.
Okay,
It'll be a minute before I can reset it.
and you're on.
Okay, we've been here since 2005 before Blanco was opened up to 407. And it got opened up to 407, I understand. However, since it's been open to 407, you'll notice my chicken scratch there, which says M box, and tree. Those are the items that were taken out because of distracted driving. 2 of those were at night, 2 of those were during the day. Concern is somebody goes down to get their taquito, which by the way, I like. All right. And they come out of the drive-through and they're unwrapping their breakfast coming down Blanco because people are going to follow the path of least resistance because instead of the red light, they're going to go down Blanco, in our opinion. And so the next thing you know, we're going to trade a mailbox for a kid on a bike trying to go to school, because that's why a lot of people moved into our subdivision, is because Razor Elementary is right there. So that's our huge concern right now. We've talked about putting up an electric gate. Well, you can't do that. I understand that. Maybe a fire gate. Nobody likes that. We would like to see, we like Whataburger, don't get us wrong, but the exits onto Blanco are just, to me, a problem waiting to happen. And if you could get jurisdiction to take radar on Blanco, I promise you it'll be a happy day. I promise you, but between the delivery trucks trying to break the sound barrier and the other people that are coming up and down Blanco, they don't know that the speed limit is 25, 30, 40 miles an hour is all the time. You know, it's just it's a real problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tony Para.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me. My full name is Melquiades Antonio Parra. A proud citizen of this country, even though taken in. And I love business, any business that is run properly and legally. As my friend said, we're not opposed to Whataburger, but the Blanco Drive opening, we see no sense whatsoever. I've been working from my home many, many years before COVID. My office, which is 9441 Blanco Drive, my office faces Blanco. I can attest to what Mr. Newber is saying. The cars coming by, the delivery vans, and the line of least resistance. So my question, 2 of them, is if you would live in Blanco, would you want this happening to your neighborhood? We live on Blanco. We're not residents of Bartonville. We do spend a lot of money in Bartonville, which is revenues for the city. The other question I have is, why on Blanco? Just simply why on Blanco? Every other business, with the exception of one, every other business faces in Bartonville and the surrounding faces 407. No other business is in the Blanco, in the Lantana jurisdiction. Why this one? Thank you for your time.
Robin Householder.
All right, so Robin Householder, 9347 Blanco Drive, Lantana, Texas, 76226. I just so everybody knows up front, I'm a Whataburger fan. My number 4 is the favorite by far. But I do live on Blanco, and I am representing tonight 2 neighbors on Blanco, actually 3 neighbors on Blanco, I'm sorry, that have small children that are concerned about the traffic patterns. My personal thoughts are the path least resistance. Someone coming down Razor is not going to wait at a left turn onto 407, which is very complex and difficult to do. Time consuming, then you're going to have to wait another light to go into
into the Whataburger, they're going to come down Blanco. And that's going to cause a problem. It's 24/7 operation. It's going to be 24/7 traffic traveling in and out. And we all know that the majority of the traffic coming there is going to be from the Lantana complex. It's just because it's the most dense population of anywhere around, and it's going to be the one that we're going to have to deal with most traffic. So that's one. Second is, as far as the land process itself, I mean, it's in the jurisdiction of Bartonville. And we all know we spend a lot of money in Bartonville. We do a lot of revenue to Bartonville. We understand that. But why does Lantana have to suffer for the gains here of Bartonville? Why wouldn't it be considered something that could be put onto an access road, just like other places on Justin Road, all the way up and down? There's access roads in between the different facilities to commercial businesses to be able to access it. Those are my two main concerns. Other than the fact of just the traffic in general and the 24/7, business in and out. We're in a high-end residential neighborhood that we bought there just because of that, on a golf course complex, just to be able to have that type of a community. I think this goes against all of that. It goes against the Lantana principles of the Lantana development altogether. And I'm assuming it goes against some of the Bartonville principles trying to be a rural community. So that's it.
Thank you. Steve Tim.
Everybody. If I talk too loud, let me know. My name is Steve Tim. I live at 9451 Blanco. My wife and Robin and I moved here in March of 2020, and we love it here. Blanco is an entrance to a portion of a private golf course community. And I live at a spot where I can look right down Elwood Court. It's the third circle on the left as you go into Blanco. And I sit there and marvel at 6, 8, 10 kids playing in the circle, running out to the front corner, a couple little kids, girls selling bracelets on the corner on Blanco, running out in the street. Usually if I'm out there, I make sure there's no cars coming, but 24/7, people are going to go, like they said, at least resistance. That back exit, if 407 is busy and they live in Lantana, they're going to go down Blanco. If you get halfway down Blanco, it makes a big right-hand turn. People are parked in the streets. Only one car can get through. And if you're going more than 25 miles an hour, there's a chance something really bad is going to happen. It doesn't matter what time of day, but at night, people leaving wherever they are in the middle of the night at 1 o'clock in the morning, and they just take off. They've got their food in their hand or their drink, and they're going down there. It's a recipe for disaster, I'm sure. And again, it's more of a private golf course community, and putting traffic onto that road gives them the opportunity to create havoc, in my opinion. Thank you.
Lauren Tim.
Hi, my name is Lauren Tim. I live at 9451 Blanco Drive. I wasn't going to speak, but I did just want to point out one thing. The image isn't up there anymore. If you look at the actual diagram of what is being proposed, when you say that the main exit that everyone will want to use is going past cars that are backing up and getting out of their parking spaces versus one that exit directly outside of the drive-through, I'm sorry, that just doesn't add up. Like everyone else has said, it is the path of least resistance. That's going to be the easiest way out. And instead of sitting at a red light at 407 that can take 3 to 5 minutes, they're going to go down Blanco. So it's unfortunate that those two exits are there. And I think that's everyone's concern here. And I hope we have some leeway with you guys. Thank you.
Linda Newber.
My name is Linda Newber. I live at 410 Jackson Circle, Lantana. It's on the corner of Jackson Circle and Blanco. My kitchen looks out on Blanco Drive. And I'm home quite a bit and go up and down Blanco. So I can see a lot of what goes on. And I don't know if y'all have ever driven down Blanco, but it is a very curvy road. And even though the speed limit's 25, I go 20. Kids have chased balls out in front of me. And when you're coming around a curve, you don't see them. The kids are sometimes down at the other end are playing. People are backing out of driveways. And since they opened it up, we were there many years. We were told it wasn't going to open up. Since it's been opened up, traffic has increased, speeds have increased. And they tried putting a stop sign halfway down, and that was useless. So they took it out. You say that only Lantana residents would come down Blanco. There are 6,000 homes in Lantana. Okay. And a lot of those residents have multiple cars because they have teenagers and they have husbands, wives, and the teenagers are the worst problems that we have in Lantana as far as speeding. And those teenagers are not going to sit at that red light. Right now, I've had many friends tell me, oh yeah, I know Blanco. When I come to the light, if it's red, I just take a right and go down there because I don't want to sit at the light. And we're talking like maybe 2 minutes to go straight. So, and it's longer if you're coming out Blanco to go to 407. So you've got, how many cars did he say? 12 lined up, and they're coming through the drive-through. So picture it in your head.
Thank you. Rudy Garcia.
Rudy Garcia, I live at 9740 Blanco. So yeah, you're considering a conditional use permit for a drive-through. And the reason you're doing that is in your code ordinances, you plainly state that no speakers or menu boards or drive-through can face a residential area. The north area that they're talking about is this entire section. You can take a compass to it. So as it is drawn, those menu boards today and that drive-through face residential area. That's your ordinances, not mine. Last time I spoke up here, I spoke about landscape buffers, Brakes Plus. Y'all assured me that somebody would look at it. Brakes Plus has tiny little bushes across it right now. So between this committee and what happens in the freshwater district, there's a big gap in design of what they are telling you and what's going to happen. Your question is, how are we going to turn out? They're going to turn across this median, oncoming traffic, 2 lanes from this drive-through across that median, 2 more lanes. That's where the backup is going to happen. The reason that they're doing that is because it's far cheaper to keep the orientation of the building than to move it southward and have an access road on the 407, because that's what TxDOT would prove. Okay, so a couple other things. I'd hope that you consider putting a pollution containment unit in this. I've talked to Matthew about it. It's something that you put into the grease collection systems. It grabs airborne grease pollutants that can get in the air. And hopefully I don't have to smell, because I'm the first house, I don't have to smell Whataburger for 24/7. You will introduce a crime element 24/7. You will have teenagers, drunk people driving through there. I hope to consider all that. 2 minutes is not enough to get all this through. So thank you for that consideration.
Thank you too, sir. Do you have a sheet here that I would need to remove?
I do. Robin Tim at 9451 Blanco, and I'm happy to get through.
I don't have one of, wait a minute.
Okay.
I do not have,
I filled it out.
you've already spoken.
No. I haven't.
Well, Robin Tim,
Robin Tim.
right here.
I didn't speak.
The daughter spoke.
Lauren Tim spoke. You called Robin and Lauren went up, I think.
Oh.
Robin here that's phone.
No, I called Robin and apparently
Robin.
you. All right. Woo. I didn't know I was opening up a huge can of worms here. So let's talk about who's spoken. Rudy Garcia spoke. Linda Newber spoke. Lauren Tim spoke. Steve Tim spoke. Robin Householder spoke. And I checked them. Tony Para spoke. Gregory Newber spoke. Robin Tim.
Did not speak. That's me. I've never been up to that podium.
Then who came up when I called this? Maybe I checked the wrong Robin. That's what you get with a brand new chair for the night. All right. I want you to go home with a good feeling about Bartonville. So, Robin, I am now putting you over here. She yielded 2 minutes to you, sir, so go ahead.
Okay, so during the construction of Brakes Plus and the Dutch Brothers, the EPA, Texas Commission of Environmental has started an investigation on the construction of Dutch Brothers. They were dumping into the golf course pond. So that's happened. They've had 4 OSHA violations. 3 EPA investigations have been opened. I opened all of those. So again, the difference about what you're being told and what's happening are 2 different things. The authority having jurisdiction on this site is you. The authority having jurisdiction to investigate is somebody else. So your land, you control, which you are hopefully keeping us in consideration of, is controlled by somebody else. You lose that. Okay. I wasn't prepared to talk for 4 minutes, so thank you. I will say that the customer experience at Whataburger is timed at 12 minutes. That is the optimum time that they want someone to hit the menu board and they want to get to the window. So you can do the math of the double stack of 5 every 12 minutes going through that. So 2 cars coming out of this driveway onto Blanco trying to take a left. I know Matthew's done a great job and they're a great organization, but that math doesn't work. Y'all don't have a traffic study in front of you. Mr. Chambers has already said that only Blanco residents would go down that street. I think the testimonials can conflict that. So you have information right now in your hands that is incorrect. I would just encourage you to dig into that because these people are mad and I think y'all are good neighbors.
Before, would you mind giving me your name one more time since I got this goofed up?
It is Rudy Garcia, R-U-D-Y.
All right, Rudy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Greg York.
Hey there, Greg York, 9531 Blanco. It's interesting that the city of Bartonville has the jurisdiction on this and you guys reap all the benefit, but really kind of don't face all the things that go along with it. You guys aren't going to police the street. It's going to be Denton County Sheriff. Those guys don't have manpower to watch out for us on Blanco. I know you can't, I'll just kind of let you guys pass this around, but in pink, that's the route from Razor coming down Lantana Parkway, Razor, and then you can see how it winds around that way. Look at north of that. That's 75% of Lantana. That's 10,000 people. It's bigger than my hometown back in the day. We're going to have so much traffic. And so in the morning, somebody is going to go and get their taquito and a cup of coffee. And in the morning, people are in a hurry. We've got school kids walking up and down this street. I walk my dogs. I see all the traffic that goes through there. It's pretty minimal right now. But I do recall that one of our freshwater district board members said, I wouldn't want to live on Blanco. I won't tell everybody who it was. But can you imagine what people are going to say in Lantana if Blanco becomes the feeder street? Because as it relates now, people come down Lantana Parkway, they're going to come flying right into this is how they're going to access this. It's perfect. It makes it so much easier. Why would you want to fight all this? And then when these guys leave, we're trying to leave. They're gonna stack us up. We're gonna be stacked up back here. We're gonna sit through several red lights just to get out of the subdivision. In the daytime, Whataburger in Highland Village can be stacked up onto the street. They'll have cars stacked up out on 407. We're gonna be behind them trying to turn right into the subdivision.
Thank you. Diane Caldwell.
Hello, my name is Diane Caldwell, and don't let my youthful appearance fool you. I'm a grandmother. And my grandbaby is 18 months old, and she likes to walk with me to the mailbox. And I'm gonna tell you right now, even those of us who are residents, I'm sorry for what I'm about to say, but we don't all drive the speed limit. Okay, so I'm worried about a person who doesn't live in Lantana. They don't know what the speed limit is. We know what it is and ignore it. But if you don't know, you got all kind of excuses. And we're at 9421. So when we come out of our driveway, when we turn right to go to Razor, people are coming the other way. They're flying. Your hair moves in your car. The other problem I have is that, and I love a good Whataburger, but they're open 24 hours. And people who eat at Whataburger after midnight have either left the club or they're on their way to the club to turn it out and they're jamming. Somebody in our neighborhood has a golf cart that jams on the way to the course. I can't imagine the music that we're going to hear after midnight, whatever time it is. So between the speed, the music, and the traffic itself, there's an app called Waze, W-A-Z-E. Everybody uses it. If that traffic is backed up, if there's an accident, Waze is going to say, take Blanco Drive. If you don't live there and you don't know where Blanco Drive goes, Waze will tell you. We already have an app that takes us through the back section of Lantana because Hilltop is closed. So I'm speaking for Blanco Drive and the rest of Lantana. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Chase Trauber. Oh, okay.
So inside of y'all's ordinances, y'all call out for reasonable representation of what this will look like. So tonight, both Mr. Chambers and Matthew both said that there will be another drive-through, but that is not represented on this application. On this conditional use permit, there is nothing before you that commits the developer to that driveway.
The lease does with Whataburger.
Yeah, I've been building for 40 years and I've seen so many deals die at the table. That doesn't play with us, okay? If it's not on this permit and if it's not in your hands, what you are promising is just words. So if Newquest, who has not completed the fire lane at Breaks Plus, tells you he's gonna put up another drive, it's not here today. It's not on paperwork, and that conditional use permit is incomplete, or you should just consider that non-existent. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to do a traffic study, TxDOT, put in a drive on 407. So that has to be on that permit as a civil engineer. So you can't promise anybody you're gonna put anything on that.
Okay. We will close the public hearing at 7:50. No,
Those are written comments that you received.
we received your written comments already and read them before the meeting started. Tammy, can you address that, please?
I'm gonna look it up, make sure.
Next.
The order are up to the chair. I'll have to, if you'll excuse me for a minute, I can verify the language on there, the intent. I can't validate what it says on the website at the moment, but the intent was for if you can't attend the meeting, you fill out the public comment form for your comment. As the chair, you can decide if you want to let them speak.
I appreciate that you've all come and that you care and that you're telling us things we need to hear. But most of it has become fairly redundant with the same issues. So if there is someone who has something that does not touch on what we've already spoken about, if there's something we do not know already, we get it. If there's something different than that, I will allow that person to speak. But other than that, we have read every comment that came in online. Everyone who's here had the opportunity to fill this out, and she will clarify, what happened with that. And in the meantime, is there anyone who has something other than what we've already addressed that would have bearing on what we're discussing tonight? Will you please? Yes, you may. Please come to this.
Hi, my name is Charlie Miller. I've been in Lantana about 11 years. When they built out Carlisle, address is 401 Elwood Court. So it's at the corner of Elwood and Blanco. So my drive comes out into Blanco. Okay. And when we built the house, that was the end of the neighborhood. All right. My comments are, I love Whataburger. I hope we get to a resolution where Whataburger gets built there. What I'd like to see done, though, is my comment is different and relates to garbage and trash. Okay. And so it would also help with the noise abatement. In Lantana, unless you live on the golf course, you have to have a 6-foot stained fence. And I believe if you put, that site was up, if you put that 6-foot stained fence all the way down Blanco, where it comes in to the end of the property line, and you took it across to the end of the Whataburger property, because I'm also a golfer and a member there. And I'm sorry, I'm probably one of those guys driving down. Driving down with, I'm driving down. Somebody made the comment about taking the golf course to the cart to the golf course with the music too loud. That's probably me. But the main point is the garbage containment, because kids, heck, they throw stuff out. And especially if it's going to be 24 hours, I'm concerned that landscaping bushes this foot tall, paper bag goes flying over it, that type of thing. I'd rather see it would be a better looking property itself if you had a fence that was containing it on the side and in the back. That's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I didn't open that back up.
It's okay. It was deemed open. You can close it again whenever you're ready.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
You can close it again whenever you're ready.
Okay. Did you find that information, Tammy?
On the agenda itself, so I can understand where the misconfusion is. The agenda item, click here to submit your comments regarding this public hearing item. When you go to that direction from there, it's a public comment form, town council planning zoning, and it's a copy of the form that's here that says what item do you wish to comment on, gives the agenda number and support and the opposition question, and has a question comment form. It does not say comment only.
Well, that might need to be clarified better on the website so that this doesn't happen again. I believe we've heard from everyone, including those that had different, something different. And so at this point, we will officially close the.
This is important to all of us. We would appreciate it if you listened to it right and had a call.
Is it something different than what we've already heard? Okay.
Hi, I'm Laura Minor, 9116 Blanco Drive, Lantana. I would like to say, would you mind putting the map back on, please? So I am opposed in total of passing the conditional use permit. I don't care if you have an exit here, here, or all three. I'm against a high traffic, high volume establishment, a drive-through. And that's what this conditional permit is about. That is specifically what this is about. It's about allowing a drive-through, which is not normally allowed under your ordinance, but you're asking comments on whether or not we should allow a conditional permit. The reason I say that is because, as you've heard, driving down Blanco and you get to the end of it, guess where it exits? Right in front of Razor Elementary and a daycare. So where someone said people are not going to go 25 miles an hour, they're going to go 55 miles an hour. Where do you think the customers of Whataburger are coming from? They're going to be Lantana residents. So they're going to go through Blanco. They're going to end up right there where that daycare and that school is. And that is my issue. I don't care if you don't have this and you don't have this, they're still going to go here and they're going to turn right and they're going to go down Blanco. So we keep talking about these two exits, but even if you do put this one in here, they're still going to go down Blanco because that's where all of Lantana is. And that's where your customers are coming from, is Lantana.
Thank you. All right, we are officially no reopening at 7:58. We close the public hearing.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we go into executive session.
Do I have a second?
For record, that would be under 551.071 of the Texas Government Code.
I was just about to say that.
It's been moved and seconded. We will be adjourning into executive session. If you'll hold tight, we'll be back in a bit.
Come take a break in these.
I was getting paid for this executive session. I'm not part of it. I'm silver. So.
No. We muted it. It's still got a ways to go. I have to do all this. It's still needs makeup.
Oh, you know, I can get it.
Right.
Just give me a minute. Thank you. All right. We will continue with the P and Z meeting.
Announce the time, please.
Pardon. It is 8:25. So we are now reconvening. Thad,
Chair or town engineer had to take a break. He will be here shortly. Again, it was a discussion on access points that again predate Whataburger and predate our discussions here as part of the Lantana commercial development by Newquest. And I think it's important that he address that issue.
thank you. I think this may do some clarification for you all out there.
Chris.
Is that it?
Are we back in? No, we're back in.
Okay. All right, everybody. My name is Chris Hartke. For those that don't know me, I'm the town engineer. And I just wanted to point out one thing. I know there's been a lot of discussion about access and coming off of Blanco. So those access points have been part of the Lantana Town Center for years. They've always been part of the center, and that's part of why it's worked the way it has, because FM 407 has a median through here. You're not going to be able to get full access directly on the 407 through that area. And so all those sites, those left three, and the fire lane and everything needs to work the way that it's shown, and actually the way Whataburger has it shown. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear, that this wasn't something that Whataburger had come out to try to use the access and use Blanco and put all the traffic there. That's been part of this town center's, really their site plan for a long time.
What year was that? So,
I'm sorry.
what year was that dated?
So those are from 2017.
Just a few years after this was lined up. That was based on traffic studies on retail without.
Excuse me, but you cannot speak out of turn.
Well, those were actually just based out of the CUP. So those sites could be anything that falls within the original PD for that area.
Would you please address, I believe you know this, that it is not the town of Bartonville that does any of this stuff? I don't know, Thad, you can, or Chris, I don't care who does it.
Again, having been here 3.5 months, I've read a lot of the chapter 380 agreement, but not all of it. Much of the control was given over to the Denton County Development District through the annex, and this is part of the annexation. Again, the annexation was so that the grocery store could have alcohol sales, because it was not going to be permitted as long as it was in Denton County. I think, I don't even remember the percentage. Tammy, what is the percentage that goes back to the developer and the control?
In the 380 agreement,
Yes, ma'am.
I'll try to keep this because I'm knowledgeable on it.
Just in
There's
general.
when the town annexed that area, the Denton County Development District already had a 0.5 cent sales tax on that property. When the town was approached to annex, it exceeded the sales tax. So the Texas Comptroller made that Lantana Town Center a combined area
The Denton County Development District was allowed to keep their 0.5 cent, and they took the town's 1% and reduced it to 0.75 cents. Also through that agreement, when a city annexes a development district and there's not an agreement written out, the development districts keep all of permitting rights. The town doesn't have any rights to those. But as part of those agreements, they agreed to the CUP and the items that are in there. In addition to that, the town, through those agreements, gives 50% of the sales tax back to the developer for 2 45-year terms, in addition to 100% of the ad valorem tax.
Again, much of the control was given up. Again, as our attorney has counseled, we have the planning and zoning, and the town council has control only of the CUP process when necessary, and as well as the site plan. Again, very limited control. This predates most of us here to some degree. So again, there's limits to what you're able to do now because of those agreements that were put in place.
Will you also comment and let them know that on the other side, any business that goes on the other side, there'll be access points there too that we have no control over?
Or
Off of Blanco on both sides, right? Isn't that correct? That what you said?
if are you talking about future use on the inside?
Yes.
Here?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Again, Lantana shows their site plan is 2 access points on the other side of Blanco as well for that future commercial development, and we cannot control that.
Yeah, I actually don't have a copy of that site plan, but that's my understanding. Well, let me clarify. There is no site plan that we're looking at for that. That's just not something I have access to.
And to clarify, what you're hearing is Bartonville didn't do this. It is your development district in your, I guess, the freshwater districts that have set this up. It's not us saying you have to do this and you have to do that. We have our zoning that they have to meet and the 2 other items, but the openings and text dot, all of that has been handled by NewQuest, which is not us. So I don't want you to think, especially, I know how upsetting all this is, but we're not the ones that did it. That's the big issue.
And can't
So
undo it. We can't undo.
we
either.
can't undo what this 380 agreement did either. So, I hope that helps a little bit. I don't know if it does. We're all, we are legally allowed to do certain things, and that's it. The CUP being one of them. And excuse me, but remarks from the audience really they're not permitted. And so we're finished with the public hearing right now. Thad, is there more you'd like to say?
No, ma'am, that covers it.
All right,
Unless y'all have questions.
Are there discussions or questions that you would like to bring others up? I have one I would, but I'll wait till last. So anything? I would like to bring our chief of police up, and I'd like you to address some of the things that have been stated and where our jurisdiction stops, and how, I know you've been doing some research, and I'd appreciate you sharing that with all of us.
Thank you, ma'am. Board and staff. Bring the.
She's gonna share it.
Well, there were some comments earlier about jurisdictional boundaries on Blanco. I think somebody made a comment about that, and I'd like to start off by saying from here to where this, I don't know what you want to call that, maybe northeast boundary is, behind where the Whataburger is, that whole piece. We do have jurisdiction on that road.
to police. It's not the sheriff's department, it's us. So that's one thing that we would be concerned with, very much so. There's not a whole lot of traffic right now there, but that is a concern of ours. And was there any other specific questions and before I get into some of the research that I did?
So I couldn't quite see where your hand went at the end of the straight part. I mean, if you
407.
go off 407 to that other end before it turns left is our jurisdiction.
Correct.
So you can,
Curves up into Lantana, into the homes.
okay,
We do have jurisdiction to enforce traffic laws there.
thank you.
Work crashes and whatever.
Okay,
So I did reach out to some other towns that have Whataburgers, just to kind of see from a police standpoint what they're dealing with. As we all know, we all like to eat there. Some folks like to eat there late and some folks like, they don't like to behave. And we came to the what I found out is I actually reached out to a town that had kind of similar demographics to what we have. And then I reached out to a town that doesn't. And they indicated to me that they're not extremely resource intensive, but they do have some issues occasionally. And there were some comments made about people going, and causing problems at the Whataburgers, which it does happen, but not as much as you would think. It's easy for me to say, and it's probably a little harder for y'all to digest, but some of that trend is going down from these Whataburgers. I'm not saying that because I'm on one side or the other. I'm just saying that's what I was told. So that's all I can really go off of. So, and then another thing is I did recommend based on that, since we were talking about the CUP was possibly some security considerations being attached to that CUP.
and what's your thought process on that?
I think what we kind of came up with would be maybe a Friday, Saturday requirement for security between certain hours of the night when things are a little more, when the kind of the demographics change at night, who goes there. That's kind of what I was recommending.
Would you look at it the same way we did with the Marty B Event Center with, not obviously you don't have the numbers, but a single peace officer, not
Multiple officers,
not
just
a guy.
just a single peace officer working there, not necessarily completely from, overnight, but during the hours that we might anticipate calls being there, which would be somewhere around midnight to, somewhere around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
I think what she was saying is that the officer would be a certified police officer, not just a security type.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that, you said you talked to other, is that a standard thing, say, in a city with our same demographics that they're hiring police officers to be at a Whataburger? Because I've honestly never seen one. I don't know if I'm in that, that late maybe.
That's a good question. And to answer that question, a lot of them don't.
Yeah.
Except for the places, typically Denton does because of it's a college town and they have some things that go on there that we don't. And I can tell you from working deep nights, there's Whataburgers down the road here on 407, and we've never been called there to help with a large fight or whatever that might go on. So you got to kind of take into consideration the demographics that are they're coming through here. And we don't have a lot of bars and we don't have college kids that typically frequent that establishment during those hours. Not saying we won't, but.
Have you heard any from, well, I would think maybe the college towns, any drug issues where they were using it for selling and buying and all that, or is that clear out of?
I don't say this to any other way than to say, I don't think that type of activity cares where that happens. They do that. It's not a specific area.
So it could be the 7-Eleven too?
Could be 7-Eleven.
Okay. So there's nothing we need to look at in particular in that respect?
Not that I've done with, not that I'm hearing from the folks that actually have these and have had them for a long time.
Thank you. Anything else you want to share with us? You guys have any questions or did you think up anything? Okay, thank you. All right, during the DRC meetings, we were told, but it didn't come up tonight, and I want to clarify that, and I want everybody that's not on DRC to know about the speaker setup that they were, changes were made so that it wasn't aiming towards the houses, but also the height of it. Has that changed, or is that still what they said they were going to do?
I would have to go and ask Matt that question. Matt. do
Okay,
you
Matt,
have-
would you address that, please?
Again, during the DRC, the discussion was that the speakers would stay low to the ground. I don't remember what the height was.
Foot and a half, I
I thought
think.
it was 1.5 feet, maybe 3 feet, but it was low. And again, those menu boards were moved to face again more Blanco as opposed to across the golf course, specifically at the DRC request to mitigate any noise that might come out of there.
Yes, to answer your question, the speaker height is consistent. It's going to be 1.5 feet off the ground, 1.5 to 2 feet off the ground.
Which puts that kind of against the side of the car. Is that what blocks the sound more?
That is one of the sound barriers, yes, is the car. Yes, ma'am.
What else have we not that came out in DRC that we haven't addressed? Anything?
No, they added the additional shrubs and again, the elevation change. They did
And
make a
How high is that berm? And where is that berm? That's one thing we also need to know, and I don't remember.
stay close, Matt.
So in terms of a berm, on this site plan, if you look where the landscape buffer is, just on the top side of the page, so here, or if you're looking at that screen, just above the red box, there's a berm that's gonna be, we'll say conservatively 5 feet above the finished floor of the Whataburger. And then as you go north towards Blanco and towards the residences, those homes are actually going to be lower. So you would project out, you'd be 10 feet above where the finished floor of the building is. So because you're going downhill.
And then did the bushes go on top of that berm?
So on the north side of the building, there's not an actual berm because we're having to do a swell to catch the runoff so that runoff isn't going into the public right of way, runoff being rainwater. And so it's at grade with the drive-through. It's not on a mound.
Okay.
Yes.
So the berm is not facing where the houses are. It's facing the golf course.
It's on the corner, I think. Is that-
So there's a berm, which would be the mound of dirt, or for lack of a better description, but on the east side of the site that buffers the Whataburger from the golf course and then where the Whataburger will be. And then as you go down the hill to the north, there's not a berm, there's a swell. So something to catch the runoff. But there is that hedgerow of bushes that you noted. So.
All right.
Madam Chair, I heard that there are some conditions that are under consideration, and what I've written down is the security conditions would be to have a single certified peace officer working at the Whataburger from midnight to 4 or 5 a.m. Y'all have to pick one of those. And it was stated as Friday to Saturday, but actually that's 12 a.m. Saturday to 4 or 5 a.m. and then 12 a.m. Sunday to 4 or 5, because that's how you normally think of Friday night and Saturday night, but they're technically Saturday and Sunday. The other condition was that the speaker height would be about 1.5 to 2 feet high. The third one would be that the boards are not pointing to the residences, but pointing to the golf course area. Did I hear that right?
No, that's
To
what they're
Blanco.
already doing, but
Okay,
I,
pointing where?
the,
Point toward Blanco.
right.
Okay, to Blanco. And then the last one was the landscape berms. Those, add those to the site plan to show where they're going to be.
Now's your chance to put on any old thing you think needs to be on there. There's a couple things I need to be on there. Number one, I was going to bring it up, but it also came up out here. And it bugs me every time I go to a fast food place that there isn't any place to get rid of your food after you ate it. So I would like to see on here a requirement that they have a easily accessible way to shove your leftover stuff into a can. Maybe that will address some of the problem with people throwing stuff out, but I think we need to require those, a couple of them.
2 trash receptacles, is that
Um,
what I'm hearing?
Well, there's 3 exits, but I don't think you can put them too close to an exit and they're on the wrong side of they'd have to be placed where the driver could do it. So that they're the experts, let them figure out where to put it.
Typically would be in the stacking lanes while you're sitting there. That's more often where those are placed.
Well,
And
that doesn't do you any
you're
good.
throwing away the fast food that you ate before and all the other trash. Again, I've seen a lot of the fast food restaurants. I've been doing this a while. Again, my background's economic development. So I've seen a lot of it. Typically, you would want those receptacles in the drive-through, but again, you could additionally ask for those at whether it's the main exit off of 407 or somewhere else.
Well, I think that's something we should look into, require. Another thing that people may not understand, but we do, and that is any CUP that we do stays with the land. It does not stay with Whataburger. So if Whataburger gets sold off and it turns into some other something that's a fast food, and whatever we put into this also will be with the land, and they have to also do it. So some of the things we put in here, Whataburger, I do not believe has music outdoors at their establishments. However, I think we should put no outdoor music on here because maybe the next one does. So we want to take care of it so we don't have to worry about it down the road and we can't fix it. I think that required low mics or low speakers or whatever they are, I think that ought to be a requirement that they have to stay low. Don?
We're writing a lot into this that if it changes, that it might not work for anything else that would come in there. We don't know what in the future,
To what are you referring in particular?
Oh, well, when you
Anything?
talk about, the spacing of the speakers and such, I mean, I guess it does make sense that they have them on there, that they're going to make them a low speaker, but
And the houses aren't going to ever
Yeah.
move.
I also look at the security thing. I don't know that's really need to write that in. I would think that Whataburger, if they have problems, they would hire security. That's my thoughts. I mean, that's just my feeling on it.
But if it's a restaurant or another fast food place that closes at 11 o'clock, they wouldn't have to have security because they're closed.
We're only looking at midnight to 4 or 5.
If they're closed, if we write in there, that they have to have security after that, then whether they're open or closed, they'd have to have it.
Well,
I
then
think
we'll
we can
say if they're
override.
open.
Yeah, we could overwrite, I think, sometimes too much into a conditional use. So anyhow, just my thoughts on that, that I'm not sure we need to write in security in it because as said, the Whataburgers typically are not doing that. So anything, I don't know what y'all's.
Bobby?
thoughts are. You know,
Maybe direct those boards,
yeah.
Mr. Boss, but is there a way to say, to give it a certain number of incidents before that kicks in? Like a certain.
I would rather it be stated if they're open.
Okay.
If they're open at those hours, they should have security, but if they're not, then it doesn't kick in.
Right. What about your hours? Did you have a preference? You're the protector of us. Okay. You all right with that? All right. This request, correct me if I'm wrong. The request that's being made meets every bit of our ordinance. Correct?
That is correct.
So we have no reason, as far as our ordinance, they've met it. We also have another 24/7 in town. Therefore, this one is not one that we're picking out of the air, and we don't already have one. It would be difficult to say one can and one can't.
I would agree with that.
And so our third thing has to do with making sure that the CUP we put in protects these residents the best we can. We cannot do anything. We cannot do anything about the traffic. You already have the traffic, and you're going to get more, like it or not, unfortunately, because of that other piece of property. So, and you've got cut through traffic, which we get because we have cut through traffic too. In fact, a lot of residents from Lantana cut through Bartonville. So it's a pain in the neck for everybody. Unfortunately, it's also a reality. We can't close off our streets either. So we have to try to do the best we can with what we're working with. I know you'd like to block off that street and everything else, but it's a public road and none of us can block off that street. So, that being said, we have to look at what we're going to do here. The only thing we have left to do, are we doing anything on the site plan or just sending it
It's
on?
included.
Okay.
These conditions would be addressing some site plan issues.
Okay, so the only thing we do have to do is deal with the CUP recommendation, which can be changed and altered. We recommend, we do not, we are not the final arbiter of that. Council is. So where are we at this point? How many things did we put on the?
What I've got written down as discussion condition points are the security conditions, if open after midnight, and have a single certified peace officer on premises from midnight to 4 a.m. Saturday, Sunday, midnight, 4 a.m. The speaker height can be no higher than 1.5 to 2 feet. The boards need to be pointing to Blanco. The landscape berm needs to be added to the site plan. Add trash receptacles at the drive-through and drive exits and add that to the site plan. And then no outdoor music.
Discuss.
Okay. I wanted to, you said Sunday or Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday. from
Is it
12 to 4.
Saturday and Sunday that's the big issue, or Friday and Saturday? Oh, That it is Saturday. That's really Friday and Saturday in my head.
Right.
One of the interesting things is if you want to find out the highest crime day, it's Sunday.
Yeah,
Is it?
Everything's at Saturday night.
Saturday night after.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. All right, any further discussion? Ralph?
I don't have any.
Recommend approval. Including those conditions.
I have a second.
A second.
All in favor? Motion carries. All right. Item number, wait a minute, I can't find it. Item number, thank you. Item number 2, fence ordinance updates.
Madam Chair, the request is, as I went through, you want me to wait?
Yeah, hang on a minute.
Okay.
It's not gonna do them any.
I think I did it.
I know. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, is the request from staff tonight is to either forward the fence ordinance either to the DRC or back to council for them to recommend DRC discussion, or if this body would like to create a committee to look at it. Through the back and forth, there was some confusion. Our planner decided on their own volition to rewrite the entire fence ordinance, which was not what we were looking for. So again, I would like us to take this back down to a workable group. I've used DRC many, many times throughout my career to be able to troubleshoot and get back to a place that where council began this in April and where we are today. So again, if this commission would give us a little more time to work on in a smaller group and get those items addressed that have come up without completely rewriting your fence ordinance.
Comments?
I agree with that suggestion. I think the DRC needs to address that.
Fine with me too.
So if y'all would, again, make a recommendation back to council so that they can direct DRC.
So that's what we
That was
need
a
to do.
process. Yes, that was a process.
Okay, I need
That
a
with Tammy.
motion,
Yes.
please.
I recommend that we, how do I say this? Recommend to council that the fence ordinance update goes back to the DRC for discussion before it comes back to us.
Second,
Second. Yeah.
Dawn, seconded. All in favor? Okay. Item number 3, accessory building and use regulations, discussion on Town of Bartonville Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Article 14.02, Exhibit A, Ordinance 361-05, zoning ordinance, Chapter 2, definitions, and Chapter 19, accessory building and use regulations.
I believe you have a public comment form on this item if you want to hear I gave it to you, Michael Clay, when you came out of closed session.
The
There was a
chair
lot
will
going
hear
on.
Michael Clay. I remember you gave it to me. I don't know what I did with it. No need.
It's Michael Clay. I live at 899 Ridgewood Circle in Bartonville, Texas. And I would like to speak on this item number 3, only from a personal standpoint for my own property. My house is in Stonewood Acres and it's on approximately 2 acres. So my family situation is not as unique as it used to be. My adult daughter lives with us and her son, my grandson, 5 years old, resides with us also. So she is has been living with us ever since her son was born that about 5 years ago. And as things have progressed, and with that generation, it looks like she and her now somewhat serious boyfriend will not be able to purchase their own property, live in an apartment. So for the foreseeable future, we'll have an extended family living in our home. So we've discussed some options, and the one that seems to be the most popular right now is to have a tiny home installed on our property in the backyard for them to live in, or more likely for my wife and I to probably vacate our big house and move into the tiny home and let the kids take the house, but that remains to be seen. So as I understand the current situation with ordinance or lack of ordinance, or maybe some uncertainty about definitions within the ordinance, a tiny home on 2 acres may or not be permitted within the town. So I would request that those definitions or be more clarified, so that that would at least be an option for my family and for perhaps other families. Obviously, there may be some issues that revolve around that. We are clearly not interested in short-term rental, making this income producing. We are just looking for a solution to our family situation. And probably other families in our town are facing similar things. More grandparents seem to be raising grandkids now more than ever. And one other thing, my 94-year-old mother still lives in her house, and maybe that will change too in the near future. She may need to come live with us also, putting another generation in our house. So please consider clarifying the ordinance. I would appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I almost said mayor and town council because I'm used to presenting to them. Commissioners. I just drafted this in it, I guess, to add on, there's 2 parts to this, is accessory dwellings and accessory buildings. Over the last 5 years, we've had multiple requests come in that for people that want to apply for an accessory dwelling that live on properties that are less than 4 acres. The question we're posed with a lot of times is that our ordinance specifically states that you cannot have an accessory dwelling and minimum 4 acres. When the question, they can have an accessory building, 2,000 square feet, 2,500 square feet, but they can't have an accessory dwelling. They ask me why. My answer is that's what your ordinance reads. I don't know the history of that, which kind of bifolds into the accessory buildings and barn dominiums. Accessory buildings are allowed only if you have a primary structure or primary use. It doesn't say primary dwelling. In the memo that I wrote, I gave out some of the definitions that we have, the kind of main structure, main use, but none of that says it has to be a primary dwelling, a primary residence. So this is something that needs to be discussed, if you'd like, in the future to define those regulations. Additionally, there was a piece of property, the corner property that's zoned rural business. The gentleman purchased it, wants to put up a barn. He owns the property next to it. He came and spoke in August to you. And he can't put up an accessory building without a dwelling. His dwelling is next door. If he replats the property, he still can't put up an accessory dwelling because it would be in front of his primary residence. So then the option after we discussed is put up a barn dominium. Well, we don't have a definition for a barn dominium, but we do have them. We treat them as accessory buildings with an accessory dwelling, which we have many of those in Bartonville. And those accessory dwellings, mother-in-law suites, they're all under 1,000 square feet within that contained accessory building. So then the question poses, if you can have an accessory building that's 2,000 square feet, why can't you add that 1,000 square foot accessory dwelling on properties less than 4 acres? So we don't have those answers and the regulations aren't super clear on that. If you want to discuss at a future work session, if you're so inclined to do. But again, it's hard for staff to answer some of those questions except with what the rules point out.
How many of those requests do you get?
We've had, when Hat Creek opened up, we probably had, I haven't kept actual count and I don't have actual emails. I can't say it's been 10 or 12. I could say we've probably had more than a dozen. Especially since most of the time it's for my parent, or it could be, a few have been for children and they actually even gone to Board of Adjustment because one has a daughter that has disabilities that's unable to live on her own, but she can live independently. And they wanted to add an accessory dwelling for her. I don't recall if that one was approved or not through BOA. But the majority of them are for parents and elderly parents. I tried doing a little research on this with other cities, and there are some cities that do conditional use permits for accessory dwellings. So, and they don't have lot sizes except for the city of North Lake, but they allow, depending on acreage, like 20 acres or more, they allow 2 dwellings and don't limit the size. And again, depending on their zoning districts on the dwellings, but they have a conditional use permit process. But I didn't want to go too far into that until this became an item for discussion.
We define a dwelling or, and I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but if somebody wants a second, living space that they can only have really one electrical connection or something like that, is there something that I'm trying to think of that, how we prevent somebody from building 2 dwellings on property that we limit?
We don't issue permits for a second
Yeah.
primary dwelling. We issue permits for an accessory dwelling for the mother-in-law suites, for caretakers. You have them for caretakers, mother-in-laws, workers. And that was another question, is if you have an accessory building or you have a care or somebody that's running your ranch and you want them, you can have a caretaker quarter. And some people, well, I don't want that 50 feet from my house. I want it back down in my barn. I want to build for my caretaker, but your rules say the accessory dwelling has to be 50 feet. But there is a process for that through the Board of Adjustment, which we just had. Someone built an accessory dwelling for a mother-in-law suite and it was 70 feet from the property and they approved it through a variance. But if what I found in some of the cities that they'll allow a separate utility connection as long as it's in the same owner's name.
What about sewage? I mean, if you have a
anytime
2
we have-
acre
yeah.
and you have 2 houses, you're gonna hook up to the same.
If an accessory building, regardless of the size of property, because they have to review the septic to make sure that septic system will withstand that
Another
addition.
dwelling?
Yes, and typically the accessory dwellings are limited to 1,000 square feet.
Oh, okay.
The whole dwelling or just the living
The
part?
the dwelling part that you live in. So you could have, well, anybody that has 4 acres or more there, which we have plenty of them out there, and I can get a number and present it to you that we have on record that we know about, have a 2,000 square foot. There was a barn dominium, which what they called it, that came through Board of Adjustment off of Roadrunner, and it was like 3,000 square feet. And then the accessory dwelling is 1,000 square feet, and it's blocked off separately. It's outlined separately on the permit. So again, and then they added a second septic system on that property. But there's some where they tie into the existing. And now when we approve septic permits, she has to have a copy of the floor plans to make sure any septic system on any home meets the requirements through TCEQ.
It seems to me like what we're thinking back to when we redid all these last, like I'm thinking about this property over here, there's a difference between a barn dominium where it is a dwelling that is the central dwelling. Like if I had raw land and I was going to build something and it was going to be my home, and I don't know if we have what's our minimum square footage, or do we have one?
1,500 square
Right,
feet.
so a 1,500 square foot occupied barn dominium, regardless of what it's built, which we can't be telling people they have to make steel ones anyway, but that would make it a primary dwelling on a property all by itself. That, to me, and help me out here, because that's the only thing I know of as a barn dominium. Anything that's built as an accessory building with an existing primary residence, totally different from that. Then you've got a barn with living quarters as far as the usage of it, because you already have a primary house. On a piece that doesn't have a primary house and they build it 1,500 feet or more, then that to me is what a barn dominium is. And it's very, people with horses love them, and they're building them all over the place up in, you know, up around the lake and up in the more rural, I hate to use that term, more rural, but they're more rural than we are. So I see that as a difference between an accessory building when there's already one and land that where it wouldn't be the accessory. I
Your
mean,
ordinance-
main building. That's my definition of a barn dominium. I don't know what everybody else thinks a barn dominium is, or if we need to look at that one way as opposed to another, because that's part of your problem is you don't know where to put.
We don't have a
Put it.
definition in our ordinance, and you don't have a definition of you don't have a definition of a primary dwelling.
What?
You do not have a definition. So I provided you with some information. Your town ordinances, if you look at page 29 in your packet, and this is where they talk about, and I highlighted, so on page 29, bear with me as I try to go through, you have an accessory building. It is incidental to the main structure. So you're like, well, what is a main structure? And so we go through the code and you're like, well, there's main building. So what is a main building? The building or buildings on a lot which are occupied by the primary use. Okay, well, what's the primary use? Your primary use is the principal or predominant use of any lot or building. It doesn't say a dwelling.
Well, that needs to be fixed.
So as staff members, accessory use is a subordinate use to the main use. So nowhere in here in your code of ordinances that I have searched for says that the primary use, if you have, we've had a resident that when they built their house here, I'm told, well, when I built my barn first and I raised my cattle, I didn't live here. And I'm like, well, our rules don't allow that. And he said, you tell me where. It doesn't say I have to have a primary dwelling. And that's what I did. And that person is on one of our boards, commissions, council. So going through those rules. So I found some other definitions in other cities. So that's why I brought this up, not to get the answer tonight, but those are definitions that need to be looked at, because as staff, it's hard to enforce or come up with
Interpret.
that. And
Well, once we get back the survey and from there move into going back and looking at the comp plan, then after the comp plan, it's time for us to do the same thing with fix-its and things that are not clear and clarify this kind of stuff as the next step after that, which is pretty much what's laid out there for us to do, correct? I mean, that's the logical way to do it. I don't think we should be jumping in, changing little bitty stuff or little definitions or anything else before we've gone through the comp plan. It's a logical progression to do it that way, at least.
And again, I'm just concerned that the property is being developed and they come in and they submit a permit for an accessory or for a barn dominium. You don't have a definition for it. Ed, I'll lean towards you. I don't know if that's a permit we can approve or not.
We don't have a definition for it. It's not a use we have, can approve.
Okay,
If
So
they
then they
call
would
it
need to
So that
submit
takes
to have
care
that
of it.
use.
So
so they're gonna have to go to BOA if they want to do something other than what's in the ordinance.
They would need to bring a definition to this governing body to add a definition to our uses, not to Board of Adjustment. Because it's
That
a
right?
use that's not listed.
That's similar to the event center where the definition was created and then.
Okay,
So you have to create a definition for it.
Yeah.
So it's whether do you want to wait for somebody to submit a request for a definition or and move forward with your process on reviewing barn dominiums, or if you even want to talk about the accessory dwelling sizes on lots.
Ask the clarification question. If you're saying if I bought 2 acres of land and want to put horses on it, I couldn't put a barn on it.
As our practice has been not without a primary residence.
There are already some like that. Well, how did they get
I
there?
understand. I can't answer. It was before my time. There is one that exists today that got a variance because when they built the barn, they had 2 separate parcels. What we do now, if somebody comes in, if you own 2 separate lots, you want to build an accessory building on that, we make you replat it so it's one lot. Because in our head, our practice has been a primary structure is a primary dwelling. But when I go look at that today, it doesn't say that. It loops.
I have a question. Do we have any way to address, I know that in Argyle, if you build a barn first, there's a time limit that they give you and you have to build the primary residence within that time
We've
frame.
had in the past, we've had people, I think he's talking about something, there's people that buy property out here and just want a barn because they have their animals.
Mhm.
There's other people, and we've had that where they go to the Board of Adjustment. There's a process that I'm building this big house, but we've got a barn. We want to build the barn first and live in it. They go through the Board of Adjustment, present their case in the hardship of the reasons why they need that. And there's been cases where that's been approved to live in that barn until that building is done. What I don't know was ever addressed because now I'm thinking that this was approved on a property that was less than 4 acres, that they were allowed to live in their barn while their house was being built and they've moved into their house. So what happened to that living space in that barn? I don't know. And there's people that will allow a bathroom in an accessory building. But on the floor plans, if there's a kitchen, it's like, nope, that's a dwelling under 4 acres. So they bring us back plans that have a bathroom. If they add something after the fact, there's no way that we would know about it.
People have businesses set up in barns.
Yes.
They're petitioned off.
Sure.
Some of that's allowed in our ordinance, depending on what it is, but
I just don't understand. We want to keep Bartonville country, and yet we got a piece of land over here that somebody wants to build a barn on to put animals, and we're saying we got to have a home there too. That don't compute. Somebody wants to buy acres, put their livestock on, they need.
we can only provide information what your ordinances say.
We need to fix it.
I agree.
About 4 acres or less too. There's, I mean, there's not much. Where we could do that same need and they have less than 4 acres.
Reason that we don't. Multiple residents on the same property.
Yes, yes.
But
And use them for
we've
rentals.
got- but we're going through the Board of Adjustments to do stuff that if at some point, when you've done it through Board of Adjustments over and over again, then you need to change the ordinance to make that work and not go through Board of Adjustments.
Mhm.
The one
We need to
recommendation,
fix this.
when you get into for the dwellings under 4 acres, you could go have them make it a conditional use permit.
That's pretty good solution.
That way you can put your conditions that it not be rented. It's already, you have your 1,000 square feet and
Right.
Might be a good.
I don't think anybody's ever complained about the size. Yeah.
To keep them, to keep people from putting more than one resident on there to rent the property or sell it to somebody else. If it's less than 1,000 square feet, it's more likely to be.
The mother-in-law
Yeah,
suite or the
mother-in-law
caretaker is your ordinance. You have that defined, the caretaker and
Or an Airbnb.
Oh, yeah,
you do have an
We-
Airbnb.
we probably
We have
need,
one out
Yep,
here?
it was approved by conditional use permit.
I'll say that again, please.
You,
We did have
the town of Bartonville approved a conditional use permit for an Airbnb.
where was I when we
Yeah,
did that?
you- I'll show you the minutes. It was here and it's over off of Porter Road. Is it? Yeah. Were you were on P and Z then? Weren't you? No. But it came through and it had conditions.
Oh,
I must have been sick.
Yeah.
Has it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you weren't here that.
But it's
long.
not, it's not a.
What
it's not-
did I
it's
have
not
in
a
my
separate
water
building though?
bottle?
It's part of their own.
I think it's not a,
It's part of their own home.
but well, it's not, they've got it connects to their home. So that's another thing is there are some homes out here that I don't, before a certain time that if it was connected by a breezeway, it was considered an addition. And that is not the case as presented to us today in the last 4 years of operating, that if you have another building in your house and you put a breezeway over it, it makes it part of the main dwelling. It doesn't. Your breezeway it says it's a breezeway that connects an accessory building to a primary dwelling as under your definitions.
Do we not have something, and I don't remember if it was Thad, you and I were talking about it for something. Do we not have something in there about when you build an accessory building, it has to be so close to the house
It must
or
be
a
a
barn?
minimum, yeah, it's got to be a minimum of 50 feet.
away from the house?
Yes.
But is there something that precludes?
I mean, a maximum, I'm sorry.
Maximum.
The
Well,
maximum is 50
if you
feet.
call a barn an accessory building, then does that, have we got this thing written to where I can't have my barn across the street because my property goes clear over there? Because my barn is an accessory building and I don't want my barn 50 feet from the back.
So
from my
your,
patio.
no, accessory dwellings must be minimum 50 feet.
Oh,
Your accessory building can be further.
even if you put living quarters in it?
No, that's when you have to, what we did in that case where the gentleman came in and said, I've got my barn, we wanted, I don't know, it's 100, I can't remember, were you here? No, not when we approved that one. Again, he called it a barn dominium, but it was further away, but he had to go to the Board of Adjustment to get a variance from the distance, just like by the house, by 460 Jeter Road, that was last BOA. His accessory building was 70 feet from the house, which is permitted, but he's got a mother-in-law suite within that accessory building. So now that you have a dwelling, an accessory dwelling has to be 50 feet. It can't be further. So they had to ask for a variance for the accessory dwelling to be past that 50 feet, and it's actually like 71 feet.
And was that, I know what property you're
Yes.
talking about. Well, if we have this on the books, then how come other property next to me has living quarters that are way more than 50 feet in their barn?
It was either done before your regulations were written, or they got in a variance from the Board of Adjustment,
Or they,
It's illegal.
or
they
it's
did it
illegal,
legal.
which
Yep.
I'm thinking is probably the third.
But
And
they
I think
wouldn't,
there's
we
two
would
of
not
them.
have issued a permit should not have been issued for an accessory dwelling that far out without a building permit. I cannot tell you that there was or wasn't, because there's things that have been done in the past, and I can't explain why it was done.
Okay. So we're to this point, what are we gonna do? Go through the process, or are you saying things are so bad we should be looking at this?
It's just continually coming up, and especially with the barn dominium on the corner here, because he's taken down the fence, he's doing things. I'm anticipating that he's gonna come in and ask. I don't know what he's doing yet, because first, all he wants is a barn. Because
Well-
he's building his 14,000 square foot house and he wants to put a barn on there and put his Longhorn and live happily ever after. And it's like, well, the rules will not allow.
And that
you.
sounds fine, only we have to look at the whole town, not one person.
Exactly.
And we cannot jump in and change the ordinances and then wish we hadn't because we didn't.
Take the time. And
Take
that's why
the
I'm
time
bringing it
to
up to
do
you
it.
now. So you can look at this
Start-
as a
yeah.
future work session item or as work through it with your comp plan.
Is the plan for us to, how soon are we going to be going from to where we're looking at the comp plan in December?
It's possible
think?
we'll begin looking at it in December. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And again, I was going to go back to what you had said, Madam Chair, and again, part of that process. I mean, I understand that we're at a point where we would like to do some things, but we have the fence ordinance that's been on our books since April. And we're, have now kicked it back to DRC. I think being part of that comp plan process would probably be better overall. You're looking at 3/4 of the administrative staff. And so again, I think that would be the most judicial use of your time is to do it through that process. Again, look at the results of the survey and then begin that process and then do it then.
And then when we get to the ordinances that we need to address, I have been every time, it, I've already done it to you, make a list. Make a list. That way we can address because we can never get any of this perfect and things change. And then what we thought was perfect isn't perfect, even after it was perfect for a while. So it's definitely time to
Work in
go.
progress.
Time to go look at these again. And these guys are great about keeping, we did this, but this was an unintended consequence. So it's time to fix unintended consequences until 4 or 5 years from now when we have to do it again. So is everybody okay with that process of going through you fit into that. Well, you well know that this has to be looked at carefully and it has to be addressed, looking at the whole town too. We'd be remiss if we weren't looking at every consequence all the way around. So it isn't going to be next month, but it's there where you can see that that's exactly what's going to be looked at. And you heard this discussion tonight too. Yes.
So if we're in a big hurry, need to do something, I can request a conditional use permit. Or I can come up with my own definition and submit some kind of application.
Would that not have to just be something if you want to do something outside
That would be a variance.
that's
Through the Board of
exactly what I
Adjustment.
was going to say. You'd need to go to Board of Adjustments. If you can't hang in there until after the first of the year. All right, comments, druthers? Me too.
It's just discussion only. There's no motion on this.
Okay, so I think we're burned out to think. It's been a long, interesting night. We will close is there anything I need to know for what's coming up?
Madam Chair, on number 4, the comprehensive plan review, again, that will probably come to you in November, but we did want to update. It closes tomorrow at 5 p.m., the survey, and as of today, we have 195 responses.
Wow, that's good.
So again, we're getting a good.
Let's go out and drum up some more tomorrow.
Can I just add one thing? I did in the memo, if you wanted to look at some of these definitions, but again, I understand that you don't want to rush things. Under a barn dominium, I did find, it's one city, I searched barn dominium everywhere, but they came up in there or for another city, a building, Maine, a building in which the principal use on the lot on which the building situated is conducted in a residential district, any dwelling shall be deemed to be the main building on the lot on which such dwelling is situated. So if we had that definition, then somebody could build a barn dominium, because you're saying any dwelling shall be deemed to be the main building. Since we, under our definition,
Could you tell me where this is? I can't
it's
find
on
it.
page 26, under barn dominiums, the last paragraph. So the second sentence, in a residential district, any dwelling shall be deemed to be the main building on a lot which such dwelling is situated. But that doesn't answer Larry's concern of just having a barn as the primary structure. But again, we'll put that in the notes when you have your discussions,
Okay,
because that just answered my own question, saying it out loud.
thanks. Anything else?
Ma'am, that is it.
Well, I've scrambled so much stuff around here, I can't find the sheet that tells us what else we have to do here. In it, future agenda items that we need to know about.
Only that,
No.
again,
She's the
pardon
chair
me,
of this meeting.
the survey
Oh,
results will
keep it.
come out probably November, and again, we'll begin in December, working on that comprehensive plan update. Full,
Great. Are you gonna give us nice colored circles with?
yes, I am.
And with that, we will close the meeting at 9:31.
I got plenty of catch. Okay.